In change management, we often talk about change tools. Now, the tools can be a whole range of things. One of the tools that's mentioned in the Yarra Valley case study is that of the life cycle assessment, or the LCA. Let's listen to Tony describing the LCA and how it was integral to Yarra Valley's planning for change.
In the analysis, we quickly zeroed in on, greenhouse gas was a big deal for us, nutrient discharges, extraction of water from rivers. These were the key factors that dominated every life cycle assessment that we undertook. We don't do it so much anymore to go through the analysis because it keeps coming back with those same answers. But it was very, very important to us in our development and understanding of our impacts on the environment.
So, what did you think about the LCA? Was it a useful tool? Was it essential? Or could Yarra Valley have completed the change process without resorting to a tool like the LCA? How important is it? How central? And what other kinds of tools are important in a change process? Now, no discussion of change would be complete without talking about stakeholders, because by definition, when you're changing something, you're affecting people or stakeholders of some description. In your studies, you'll have come across quite a range of stakeholder analysis tools. I'm not going to describe them here, that's for you to go back and research. But let's listen to Tony talking through who the stakeholders were in Yarra Valley Water for this change process. And while he's talking, try to think through some of the stakeholder models that you're familiar with and see if you can follow Tony's description by mapping his ideas against one of the stakeholder models.
Stakeholders, we've recognised that Yarra Valley Water, as most organisations should, that we can't operate in isolation, that we can magnify our effectiveness by working with third parties. Everything we do affects third parties. So when we're wanting to build a stormwater recycling plant at Calcallo, for instance, clearly it's going to affect the local community up there. The council's going to be interested because they've got to give their approvals. The developers that are affected by that, who are building all the new suburbs up there, will have a stake in that as well. The government will have a stake in that because they're encouraging us to undertake these sort of projects. The health regulators and the EPA are vitally interested as well. So we have a lot of people to include in the decision making. We do say that our engagement with these people is not about finding lowest common denominator outcomes. That's certainly not what we're about. What we're trying to discover in those interactions is innovation. There is a danger in those sort of interactions that you do gravitate down to some lowest common denominator that suits everybody, but that'll never give you innovation. So it becomes a major challenge. But what we do find is the stakeholders we deal with value the fact that we are trying new things, that we're pushing the boundaries, and quite often, they're keen to come along for the ride, but on the proviso that whatever we create serves their purpose as well. So we do end up with mutual, benefits, if you like.
It seems that you can't create any change now without thinking about the concept of sustainability. It's everywhere, it's in the environment, it's in our everyday work. For Yarra Valley Water, what were the drivers of sustainability? In other words, why did Yarra Valley feel it had to make the changes that Tony Kelly describes as those relating to sustainability? Let's listen to him talk about that issue. He mentions the concept of the TBL, the triple bottom line, and just keep a note of what he says about that and whether it's still a practical, contemporary and relevant tool for change process today.
Well, it's been a very interesting journey, and I think right back at the turn of the century, there was a lot of talk around the traps about the triple bottom line, and John Elkington, the chap that coined that phrase, English guy, come out to Australia about that time on a couple of conference tours talking about the concept, and we just happened to latch onto that. It just sounded a bit interesting, and I remember I was part of a water industry group at the time, and they asked me to go and read the books and check it out, and which I did, and I became quite intrigued with the whole idea. I fed back to the industry, and that was fine, but I brought the thinking back into Yarra Valley Water as well, and it appealed to us because water industry, has always had an intimate relationship with the environment, because we take water from the environment, we distribute it to customers, they discharge their waste in it, we take that waste, we clean it up, and we discharge the water back into the environment. And, at every step in that process, we're having quite a profound impact. So, the environment part of the triple bottom line just rang true for us straight away. We were corporatised in the early 90s, so we've always had this commercial focus as well. So that covered the economic basis. And the social side of our business, again, is very important. Civil engineers love to say they've saved more lives than doctors because they provide clean drinking water and look after the sanitation services. And it's all about protecting public health. So there's a big social side to what we do too. So the triple bottom line worked really well.
A fairly powerful influence on Yarra Valley was the concept of the natural step. Now, this is, again, I guess, a tool or a sustainability concept. Again, let's go to Tony and listen to what he describes as Yarra Valley's adoption of the natural step process to ensure that it was practicing sustainably.
We then latched onto the natural step. We were looking for a model to help us understand how we could, what the organisation needed to become more sustainable. And the natural step at that stage was staffed with a bunch of very impressive individuals, and we brought them into the business. They worked with us for 18 months and helped us sort of understand what was going on. And it became clear to us, in the whole process of the education that was provided through that, that this sort of continuous consumption of natural resources is just unsustainable of itself. Any logical person, as I said, the engineers and accountants and scientists we got in the business are all trained to be logical. Just tells you just can't continue on this route. So, we looked at it and, we decided that we wanted to be part of the solution rather than part of the problem.
Personally, I quite like the idea of the natural step. It seems like a very logical process to adopt when you're thinking about sustainability. So, as a challenge for yourself, take the natural step idea and apply it to another organisation with which you're familiar to see whether you can apply it in the same way that Yarra Valley has for their change project. If there is no pressure to change, should change occur? And you might say, well, no, because in the absence of pressure, then everything is perfect. So for Yarra Valley Water, consider this, it's a government agency. It has its own market in a sense because it's carved out a geographical region of northern and eastern Melbourne that it supplies. So it doesn't directly compete with another water utility. It does benchmark in terms of efficiency and so on with other agencies, but there's no direct competition. So what do you think would be the stimulus for change at Yarra Valley Water given this lack of competition? Let's listen to Tony again, where he's going to describe what he believes to be the pressures for change at Yarra Valley Water.
Now, in terms of whether there was any pressure on us locally, not so much. We've felt that we've been in the vanguard a little bit with a lot of this, and in the water industry in particular, we've stretched the boundaries a bit. Most people in the water industry see us as probably a bit greener than most water utilities, which is a badge that I wear very proudly. I'm very proud of what we've achieved. So things like greenhouse gas neutrality. We've set ourselves a nutrient cap on our discharges back into the environment because nutrients are the key impact that we have. And no other utility in the world, I don't think, has done that. And we're proud of what we've achieved there. We've cut water consumption by 40% through the drought. Sure, the drought helped, but we played a major role in encouraging our customers in that vein. And now we are undertaking a lot of very innovative projects to, again, minimise our impact on the environment. or as we really say, work within the carrying capacity of the environment. So things are going really well. Sure, they're not perfect, and we've got a lot further to go, but I'm very confident with the sort of organisation that we have, that we're well equipped to go that next leg.
A lot of what you heard Tony describing is actually things that were led from inside the organisation. They weren't external pressures applied to Yarra Valley Water. They were internal ideas that were thought to be useful and beneficial in terms of environment, society, and efficiency. So how do these things happen? How do organisations create this culture where internally they recognise they can do things better, even in the absence of external pressure to do so? This is an important concept, and one you should carry through and perhaps bring back in the exam case study. And also more generally, when you come out as practitioners, think about the organisation you're working within. What can you change internally to make the organisation more sustainable, more equitable, and more environmentally friendly? Now, in summary, we've talked about a whole range of things in relation to the case study, how it applies to an exam, how we're using Yarra Valley Water as the case itself. So my message to you now is to absorb all these ideas, make sure you're very familiar with the case, because what you see on my RMIT is exactly what you'll now see on the exam paper. You can't take anything into the exam with you, so you need to be quite familiar with the case. Now, you don't need to be water engineers. We're not testing your technical skill. We're only testing your ability to use ideas, theories, concepts, approaches from leadership and change. So don't go and research how to lay concrete pipes or conduct water analyses. That's not the nature of this task. In terms of the exam, remember that there are two parts. We said at the start there's a part A and a part B for each question. The part A is where you get the chance to demonstrate your knowledge of a theory or an idea. Part A is not applied to the case. It's your ideas and understanding around different aspects of change and leadership theories. Part B is that same concept, but now applied directly to Yarra Valley Water. So to prepare yourself for the exam, I would identify all of the major concepts taught in the course in terms of theory and practice, and then apply those same ideas to the Yarra Valley case study and think through for yourself what kinds of initiatives would you suggest to Yarra Valley Water to achieve certain outcomes.